Hi everybody, we're going to look at the tens today, and before we start with the cards, let's just talk about where we've come and where we're heading with the number 10. So in the nines, that was the last one-digit number, and we did see things culminating in those cards. The 10 builds upon that ending, and because it is the first two-digit number, then it also gives the idea of something beginning as well. And when you think about the number 10, we have the 1 and the 0, and in a way you could say, it sort of has that male energy and female energy with the 1 and the 0. So there's also, I think, an idea of something being created or that potential there. So let's start with the Sword suit and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and you'll see something very much done here. So the man is laying face down on the ground, and it looks like a very dire situation with the 10 swords in his back. And of course, the 10s are air element and have to do with our thoughts. And we see the sky here is very, very dark, very black. And then we see just a little bit of that clearing away with that golden light just coming in. So it does give the idea of that ending. Something really needed to be done here. This way of thinking is no longer working, so it has to be finished. And with that ending, we see just that hint of perhaps something beginning. In the Druidcraft, the man here, once again, face down with the swords in him. Same idea when you look at the sky. That there is a dark sky that seems to be giving away to some sunshine there. In the Tarot of Dreams, we have the Sun in Gemini. So Gemini is it is ruled, I believe, by Mercury, and they really do think a lot of that communication, overthought. So we have here a man with the swords in his back, and they're in a circular formation, so that idea of the circular thought, and it is tormenting him. His hands are on his head, like he's holding his head. Just, it's too much. He's got a tattoo on his back that looks sort of like a sun symbol with these swords around it. Really time to let that thought process go. In the Thoth deck, the keyword says ruin. And when you look at it at first, you only see 8 swords. But if you look closely, you'll see that there are the tips of 2 other swords coming through as if they are from behind the card, slicing through the front of the card. In the Morgan Greer, we see, once again, a very dark night. And the man who is with the swords in him, and the coloring, he looks sort of grayish, greenish, and as if he's already decomposing. But then the snow is there. Now, it doesn't look like a blizzard with lots of wind. It looks just like fresh snow falling. So maybe that is giving the idea that even through this difficulty, something new the potential is there for something new. In the Bohemian Gothic, we really just see a woman grieving, and it almost looks like a complete emotional breakdown. We see a cross, and on the cross is a sword. There are some white flowers here. And once again, very dark skies with just a hint of color coming in at the horizon. The Ludi Lescott shows a man with 9 swords in him. Now he is facing upward. And if you look, he's got a sword right near his hand. So it gives the idea that he was really, to the very end, fighting for what he believed. He was doing his best to defend himself and his thoughts. And the woman runs towards him, grieving. In the Hidden Realm, as we've seen in other swords, cards in the Hidden Realm, they take a very aggressive stand. So this woman here looks like she is also fighting to the very end with what she believes. She's holding the sword, and she has 9 arrows as her necklace, bringing in the 10 the idea of the 10 swords there. In the alchemical, this man, he just has all the swords in him, and there's a book here. So that's the bringing in the idea of thought, of ideas. Time to let that go. In the Vision Quest, we have negative thinking, it says, and we see the vultures gathering. And I did add the Japariza this time. The air suit is called Winds, and we see a tree, a barren tree, and these bats have gathered on the tree. They're closing their wings, ending, showing an ending of perhaps the day or whatever. Dark sky with, again, a little bit of that sun just rising there. Okay, in the wands. Okay, this man is, he's carrying 10 wands, and looks very overwhelmed, very overburdened. Nobody is there to help him. He's doing this on his own. And you can see when you look, his head is just pressed right up against those wands. So that's all he's thinking about. And his view is even obscured. So all he's seeing, thinking, and doing has to do with this burden that he's carrying, this work that he's doing. It's almost like a workaholic. And even though he is just a step away from something much nicer and happier, he doesn't bother with that. He doesn't care, because that won't make him happy. All he's concerned about is doing this work. Okay, let's go on with the Druidcraft. So he's got the wands on his back. His eyes are closed. And he seems to be taking such a difficult path upward on those rocks. Once again, alone and overburdened. And the astrological says Saturn in Sagittarius. Saturn is very burdensome and limiting. So something that started as a passion, perhaps, now has taken on too much. It's taken on a life of its own, and it really is time to let some of it go, to maybe see this project to its end, because it is just completely overwhelmed the person, and maybe didn't go in the direction they had hoped. And this man is just buckling under from all the weight of those wands. In the Thoth deck, it says oppression. And in the Morgan Greer, so we see his, once again, his face is right up against the wands, or the rods, and the feathers in his hat, are also pressed up against these wands. So that's where his thoughts are. And again, his view is obscured. In the Bohemian Gothic, the woman is, there's a woman here, and she is carrying a heavy bundle here. And the oppression is taking place in this idea of this shadowy figure that just seems to be following her. And even in the building, there seems to be cracks. So the building is even buckling from the burden. In the Ludi Lescott, now this man looks like he just arrived at this place. So he's just arriving to the understanding that things really haven't gone the way he wants, that this over-responsibility and overburden has to, it's time to let it go. In the Hidden Realm, they really went a different route. It's very beautiful in a way. So we have a little boy who's holding an egg by his heart here, and he looks worried. I think he looks worried. So he's overwhelmed by the responsibility of caring for something, caring for that life, that new life. In the Alchemical Tarot, they a little different here. So this really does give the idea of a new beginning. We see a phoenix rising out of the flames. Now, in the same deck, when I did the nines, in the Nine of Wands in this deck, we see an animal sacrificing himself into the flames. Here in the 10, he is being resurrected. In the Vision Quest, it says oppression. And in the Japariza, this burden is more of a mental burden of responsibility, not so much the idea of, you don't see somebody carrying the wands here. But we're on a chessboard, and there are two white pieces here. There's the king, there's the knight. And there's a black piece, the bishop here. So the king is directing the scenario. He's directing his knight to overwhelm the bishop. So the idea that he is perpetually, paying attention and in the position of responsibility for everything that's going on. Okay, let's I guess do the Pentacles. There's so much going on in this card in the Rider-Waite-Smith Pentacles. I mean, you could really take a long time. I'm going to just condense it a little bit. So the first thing we see is the Pentacles are in a certain formation, and you'll see this in many cards. And that does relate to the Kabbalistic tree of life. The tens, now this is the earth element, so we have come, so far this is the deepest place in the minor arcana that we will be in the earth element. And so the journey has taken us to a place where we have amassed a great deal of wealth and understanding of the earth element. Okay, there is a man, an older man sitting here, and his robe, it looks like it's maybe very lavish. So we have the idea of wealth and expense. On the robe, we see grapes, and it relates, in my opinion, to these other people, showing the grapes are showing a bloodline, that this is family. Also, the card does bring in the idea of tradition. We see two dogs here. The man is petting the dogs, one of the dogs. The dogs, they do bring a sense of loyalty, but they also have a very grounding sense. They're very earthy. So again, tying us into the earth element. Okay, so here, we see an arch here. And right under the arch, we see a couple and their child. Now, I think it's very significant that they're just directly under the arch, because that gives me the idea that they just arrived to this place, where the man, the older man, he's been here for a while. He's sitting much further into the room. So they've just arrived. And they're, interesting, the man is wearing blue, the woman is wearing red. So there is that sort of what I was talking about in the tens, that balance of male and female. And we also see a child here. Could be a male child. He's wearing blue. Child is also petting the dog, one of the dogs. Now, when we look at this man, he's facing outward. He's looking at perhaps where they've come, from where they've come, and maybe the successes that he wants to continue and to gain. The woman is maybe talking to the man, but she basically is faced inward towards the family, towards tradition, and what she wants to, grow as far as the family. The sky is very blue, so we're peaceful, it's idyllic. And, there's just so much. There are some banners here. This one has ships on it, sort of maybe, the water element. This one is as a castle, so perhaps an earthly element. So the wealth has been amassed through, the water element and the earth element in this, is some of the idea that's been given. This man has power through what he's done with a lot of, his life through these different elements. Now, this is very interesting. There's a frame here, and we see that checkerboard design, very Masonic here. And it seems to be framing something. So I don't know if that is another window or perhaps a picture, which is what I think it is. Maybe it's a frame and a picture there. It's cut off, so it's a little hard to see. But even in that picture, it looks like there could be a castle and then maybe some water as well. You could really take half an hour with this card. There's so much to it. So let's move on and see in the Druidcraft, it's very simplified version of that. We do see the dog, we see the older man, and the family members surrounding him. And they look happy. He looks, the older man looks comfortable. Kind of has his hand up to his head, like, you know, he has knowledge. He's been illuminated. Okay, in the Tarot of Dreams we have, let's see what this is. This is Mercury in Virgo. Well, Mercury would be very comfortable in Virgo because Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So, and Mercury is also an earth sign. So we have, that's why maybe everything is so lined up. And our thoughts are very much on the material and material gain and where we've come. So we see, again, we see the archway. So we're just walking through this archway. We're just being welcomed in to this new life of material gain. It looks like there are guardians here on this wall. See these masks, these faces. The gate is opened for us, and again we see that formation of the pentacles. In the Thoth deck, it just says wealth, and same formation of the Kabbalistic tree. And on each of the coins there are other symbols as well. In the Morgan Greer, okay, once again we're dealing with the archway, and the couple is just standing under the archway, really showing that they've just arrived to this point. They still have their hats and coats on, as a matter of fact. All right, and when we get to the Bohemian Gothic, there's some really deep symbolism here. Okay, we see some similarities here. It's very obvious in this card that the couple is just arriving. There's a man behind the door that's opening, an older man that's opening the door for them. There's the dog. And, you know, the couple is, it's pretty dark where they're standing. And the light that we see here is really being reflected from what's going on inside the door. We see that golden light. Now, when we look at this couple, and you know, they obviously, like I said, they're just arriving. And if you look closely at this man, his shirt sleeve is pinned up, and he does not have his arm. So that to me implies that he has given his arm. He's given his arm to gain material success. That's how much this journey has meant to him. So it's taking a very dark turn here. Now the woman, on the other hand, we can't see. She's got, I can't tell if her hand is actually tucked in her coat, or did she also give her right hand for the material gain. Now if it's tucked in her coat, and it's kind of implies the, you know, the hidden hand, that perhaps there are some secrets. But if she indeed has no hand, then she, like I said, she's given her right hand, and he's given his arm for material gain. And that's really taking it pretty far. All right, in the Ludi Lescott, now we see the family, the man and his wife and child, and now he's just coming into his treasure and his success, but he looks very kind of upset and disappointed. I believe that it is not what he thought it would be. And when we see these scales here, they're very out of balance. So it's much less than he thought it would be. So he's disappointed with that. In the Hidden Realm, he actually looks quite happy with his success. He's pretty content. You see the older man with the, you know, with the long beard. So he's been around a while. And behind him, there's lots of, you know, some land that he's amassed. In the Alchemical, once again, an older man, and the coins are just all over his beard, his face, even his eyes. That's all he thinks about, is accumulating the wealth. In Vision Quest, it says wealth, very simply. It's a very pretty card. And in the Japariza, we see a woman, and she's just in the center of so much earthly enjoyments here. We do have the grapes. So, grapes, of course, very harvest, very luscious, but they also do denote a bloodline. Like, so she has gotten here through her family's wealth with the help of tradition and family. And this is all the land that she has amassed back here. There's homes and little buildings and all kinds of stuff there. All right, let's, I guess we're moving on to the cups here. All right, this is a very emotionally happy card. Oh boy, what a happy day that is. Nice blue sky, a rainbow, couple here with their arms open, and the children are dancing. Makes you wonder, is it really as happy as all that? We will see. In the, let's see, in the Druid Craft, very similar. An idyllic day, blue sky, we see the rainbow in the back, and the family's just enjoying each other and enjoying the day. So there is such a sense of emotional happiness here, an emotional connection. The astrology, it says Mars in Pisces. So, wow, that's a real balance, isn't it? With fiery energy and watery emotional energy. So that that watery energy has been just infused with passion. And here is the card for that. We see, again, a happy family. And look, their love is just culminating in all this light coming out. The dog is there to greet us, to bring us into that emotional state. And in the Thoth deck, it says satiety, so we're satiated. All the cups filled with water and light. In the Morgan Greer, we see these interlocked hands here, a man and a woman. They're holding a cup, and what they've created together is, in this cup, is giving birth to this rainbow here. The other 9 cups are lined up. And again, a very beautiful background. Okay, in the Bohemian Gothic, we can go a little deeper in this one. Well, maybe this is just about as happy as the people get in this deck. So we do see the family. The man with, I don't know, that's a very funny expression. It does not seem so happy, but the woman is looking at her husband. She's holding a baby here. She does have a heart up at her, she has a rose at her heart. So there is a sense of, love that's blossomed, that she is content emotionally. But when we look at the child in the background, a young girl, she's holding a whip and she has a horse. I believe it would be a toy horse. But her expression is, it's very kind of upset or sour. So she's giving us the idea that even though things look so happy in the home, there are still underlying elements that really don't add up. There's still things to be dealt with on the emotional level. It's not maybe as cheery and wonderful as we think. In the Ludi Lescott, we have, okay, this woman here is really very happy with her taking, with her baby here. She's holding her child. It seems like she enjoys being in that nurturing situation, loving and nurturing. And there are people in the background, she's not, it's really a little hard to see what they're doing, but she doesn't even seem to be bothering with them. She's made her contentment here with the baby. In the Hidden Realm, there's a woman here, and she is she's sort of cooking something here in her pot or her cauldron. She seems very content with that. Maybe it's something that's very uplifting to her, or maybe that it smells good. And likely it will be shared with the family to bring that to them as well. I really like the Alchemical Tarot because it's a distillation process, and you can just see everything is so lined up and just cooking beautifully. In the Vision Quest, it says fulfillment. And it looks like a wonderful place to be. The water and the rainbow and the blue sky. In the Japariza, it's a bit abstract, but it still gives the idea of the rainbow and the water. Now, one of my favorites is from the Legacy of the Divine. It's just such a warm, lovely card. You see the dog and the cat snuggling up in front of the fireplace. And I really enjoy that feeling that card gives. So that's the 10s. I think I will go ahead and do the pages next month. So I will see you then. Have a great month. I'll see you soon.